Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Media Goon Show. I'm a little tired today, but I know I got to keep pushing out content, so that's why we're here. And I want to help out my buddy Heather Quinlan with her new podcast, 86'd, which is about the 1986 Mets and the movie that she tried to make, documentary she tried to make with a lot of roadblocks. So here's my buddy Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi, that was a rousing introduction. I'm I'm glad you were able to rally. Unlike the Mets today, but
yeah, let's not even early. Talk about that.
It's very, very early.
Yeah, it's driving me insane. They wow, all right. I guess we're not able to use Twitter anymore with the Periscope. We're gonna have to figure out a new way they're doing this. So let me just remove that. I met Heather a few years ago when she was actually doing this documentary. First time I actually met you in person, I think was at the Bergino Clubhouse with Roger Clark. And when you guys were looking for some Mets fans to fill in some airtime.
Yeah, that was great. I missed that place too. That was a great little baseball boutique down around Union Square. And Roger Clark, New York one, huge Met fan. And I had done a documentary on the New York accent, and he had me on a couple times. And when I mentioned this to him, he jumped at it. I was trying to raise money. I did raise money on Kickstarter for it. So this was part of the kind of press push that I did. So I had been communicating with you, and then, we all, because you work like crazy film hours, you didn't mind being there at 6 a.m. I think we had to be there super early because it's New York one. And it was you and a cross section of Met fans that I had there. So it was really good. I had a good time. So did Roger, I think.
Well, that's actually where my my friendship stemmed from Roger, from meeting him the first time there.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we became buddies. That's how you and I became buddies. You were I think it was the first QBC, right? With the documentary.
The second. I just missed the first one. I was actually interviewing Lenny Dykstra. And so that was 2014. And then I believe I was at the following one showing the trailer that I had done thus far, and seeing Mookie Wilson again.
Yeah, Mookie was there. Wally was there. And that was a great time. I keep trying to relive it, with all the videos we have on the QBC channel, that you're watching right now on YouTube. You can check it out. But it was fun. It was actually one of the first things, the Roger Clark thing, and then the interviews that you were doing with fans was one of the first things I've done on camera. And I was scared out of my friggin' wits.
Really? I had no idea.
I've said it a million times here. I hate talking in front of cameras. I hate talking in front of people. I've forced myself over the last few years to do it, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I have the show.
Yeah, I'm the same way. People think I'm an extrovert. I hate people. I hate going to parties. I hate talking to people. This is, and here we are. So there you go.
Exactly. I've forced myself over the years. My wife had a little bit of helping me come out of my shell, because she's such an extrovert, loves to talk to people. I just let her go, let her do her thing, and I sit in the corner and I watch everything, and I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the balance, Keith.
Yeah,
it's all balance.
So guys, just so you know, you can comment live. We have the comments open up. You can ask us any questions. So before we start really getting into the 86 stuff, Heather also had another documentary that's been pretty popular. I'm sure it's won some awards. I can't remember anything. Like I said,
Oscar.
Oscar Myers.
Won the Filoni Award.
um, it's great because it's about the New York accent. And it's a great title too. Why don't you hit them off with the title?
If These Knishes Could Talk. The story of the New York accent.
Now you see, Heather had to say it like that because she has a little bit of a cooler accent to actually say that title.
Well, yeah. Well, the fact that I could say, I remember I had GoDaddy for the hosting the website, and they're in Phoenix, I think. I know they're in Arizona, so they were completely confused as to how to pronounce it. Will it play in Peoria? No, but it played in New York. Also played in Big Bear Lake, California. So yeah, that was my first foray into documentary filmmaking. I did a short called Spoke that was about when the city bikes came to New York and how the bicycle culture was affecting New York for better or for worse. And I got my work caught the eye of a man named Michael Whitehorn, who created The King of Queens. And we were talking about projects we want to work on. And, you know, the Mets project, I grew up a huge Met fan, and it was always something kind of in the back of my mind. But I don't know, when we were just sort of like throwing out ideas, all of a sudden I said, well, you know, I always wanted to do a movie on the 86 Mets. And he was like, I'm a Yankee fan, but that's a great idea. And he said he had to deal with MLB a lot. Well, not a lot, but he did have to deal with them for King of Queens for various things. You know, Kevin James in real life is a Met fan. His character is a Met fan. And he was like, they are terrible to deal with. Do you think you can handle them? And I'm like, of course I can. And, you know, so I was like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. And they were the worst. They are everything unholy and evil. And I'm saying that here, I do not speak on behalf of QBC, but I'm just speaking on behalf of me. And it was really terrible. They hated the project from the get-go, and there was absolutely nothing I could do because I wasn't Judd Apatow or now Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, there's only so much you can do. And if you don't have MLB's back, then you can't, you know, use so much as a logo. You can have a baseball movie, but no baseball in it.
Yeah. And throughout the whole thing, I've been trying to workshop with you and try to figure out how to make stuff work. We had a couple of good ideas, a couple other documentaries ended up doing some stuff. And I was like telling you, like, now you can't really do it because they've already done it. It looks like you've done it, but you were able to pivot and come up with a pretty good idea of turning what you already have as a documentary into a podcast.
Well, I mean, MLB aside, they didn't stop me from interviewing a lot of people. I mean, players and fans and celebrities. We had, Ad Rock from the BC Boys. We had Marv Albert. We had, not Marv Albert, I'm sorry, Len Berman. I wish we had Marv Albert. If we had continued, we would have gotten Marv Albert. Len Berman, Bob Costas, and then, of course, we had the Met players. I had no idea Bill Buckner was ill at the time I interviewed him. I don't even know if he knew at the time, but I was able to get Mookie and Buckner and Lenny Dykstra, Doc and Daryl, Ed Hearn and Calvin Schiraldi. When the plug was finally pulled, I was going to interview Marty Barrett out in Vegas and Wally Backman, but then they pulled the plug. What ended up happening was we couldn't move forward without MLB's approval. We couldn't get a deal we met with Netflix, we met with Fox Sports, we met with a couple other ESPN. I flew out to LA and met with all these people, with Michael and his agent repping us. And without MLB, they wouldn't play ball, so to speak. And without them, MLB wouldn't. So it was really, we were stuck. We couldn't do anything. And, I had used the money that I raised on Kickstarter. I used the seed money from my investor. And after that, I mean, movies are expensive. They cost a hell of a lot of money. And so I got a lot done for what I was able to raise, but, not for a feature-length documentary. But I still wanted to get the content out there somehow and get it out there without having to worry about logos and without having to worry about, why can't I show the ball going through Buckner's legs? Well, I can't because I don't have the rights. I don't want to get sued. I don't have, so I'll just, do the podcast with Bill Buckner's voice, talking about it and talking about Dave Stapleton and John McNamara. And that's the next best thing I can do.
Well, the really great thing about podcasts, a lot of this stuff that is being talked about, people have already seen, and they've seen it in a whole bunch of different other media. So while you're talking about it and you have all the interviews going on, people already have that picture in their mind and they can relive it as they're listening to it. So I think this is a perfect avenue for you. I think it's a great thing that you're doing with this. How many people have, Mookie and Buckner together now? With you can't do it anymore.
You can't. Well, nobody now. Yeah. Unfortunately, that was one of several things. Yeah, I mean, I could pay for the rights to get and get the approval. I mean, you could come to the table with $1 million and MLB could still say no. But if they had said yes and I had $1 million to spend for the rights, which wouldn't even get me enough for a film, but for the ball to go through Buckner's legs, I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. God knows I have 1 million times. Sometimes I still wonder if it's going to go through his legs or not. And, it's like, I know what's going to happen, but it's still like, is it really going to happen? But instead, I got to interview the both of them and find out that they did this autograph circuit together, that Bill Buckner actually signed the picture of the ball going through his legs, almost like notarizing it, like endorsing it, and that he and Mookie were friends because they were really the only two people who understood what it was like to go through that moment. I mean, Buckner was upset about it for obvious reasons, but Mookie said that he was too, because his whole career was distilled down to those few seconds of him charging down first base and the ball going through Buckner's legs. And that's Mookie Wilson's career. And he was like, I offered so much more than that. I mean, key home runs, stolen bases, all that kind of stuff. But so they each had an interesting take on it, and they each became friends with each other. They weren't adversaries. I think that had a lot to do with Mookie's personality too. You can't not like Mookie Wilson.
Yeah, Mookie is just a class act. He's very likable. One of the guys at the QBC, when Mookie was there, asked him, "Hey, should we, do this as, open up the event by throwing out the first pitch, but it goes through my legs?" Mookie was like, "Nope, that's disrespectful. I ain't doing that." And we're like, "Okay, we get it, no problem."
Yeah.
But somebody else, could have easily have done that to exploit that moment, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing that." So that shows you what kind of class act he is, what kind of a good guy he is, and how he values his friendships with people.
It's true. And even Lenny Dykstra, when I interviewed him, again, it's another situation where, okay, I can see, I remember from the 86 video with them playing Wild Boys on the video with him and Backman, and it was total cheese, and I completely loved it. But and then I get to talk to Lenny Dykstra years later, and he, I asked him what it was like platooning with Mookie, and he said he was a class act, just like what you said. That's part of the reason why they were such a successful team, that they weren't, pouting when another one played in left field, or, it was that they supported each other rather than like, hey, we're on the same team. So it's better. It's in our best interest to support each other, not to be rivals when we're on the same team. And that's what made it work.
Yeah. Speaking about Lenny, you sent me over the newest podcast episode, which was episode 2, with talking with Lenny, and I'm not going to get too far into it, but it's a very interesting talk that you guys had, you and your co-producer with Lenny. You could see the progression in the 2 different interviews, how he seemed a little more coherent at the first one. He seemed more vigorous versus the second, just a year later, where he kind of sounds more like the guy on the Howard Stern show now.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the tragedy of this all, is that these people had on paper everything you could ever want. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen to all of them. Like Mookie Wilson, I think Mookie is a spiritual person, is a man of faith inherently, didn't have to find it. He was just sort of born with that. And I recognize that in people I know. They seem to roll with the punches easier, have better coping skills than other people do. And if Mookie had, been Rookie of the Year at 19, he may have handled it better than Doc Gooden did. He may not have. I don't know. But that's the thing with some of these guys. They get so much handed to them so young, have no idea what to do with it, have nothing in the way of like life skills, really. They haven't been through that because they've spent their earliest years training to be in the majors. Now they're in the majors and everything is handed to them, like I said, and women, drugs, booze, and this is the result. It's hard to turn that off when you have that, when that's like ingrained in you and that's part of your DNA now, to then transition to, your 30s and your 40s. And it's almost like you're trying to live that life again, but as a 40-year-old, and you can't do it. And yeah, I'm glad you could actually hear. I'm sad that you could, but I'm glad on the other hand that you could hear the difference in Lenny from our first interview versus the second. And ironically, the first one was in a sporting goods store in the King of Prussia Mall in Philadelphia. I was surrounded by Phillies fans. It was horrible. But and the other one was at an upstairs apartment in Beverly Hills. So you would think, oh, Lenny's doing well, but he looked terrible. And I was really surprised, I'll be honest. Lenny, and he said a lot of this is for entertainment's sake, and I believe him, that the chew and all that kind of stuff and the way he played and his persona, some of it was for entertainment purposes. Like baseball has a showbiz element. All professional sports do, because, it's entertainment. You want to get people to watch, you want ratings, you want tickets, et cetera, et cetera. But he looked completely mindless to me when I was a kid. And I mean, I read Nails. I'm surprised. My mother was horrified when she saw it. But he had a lot of really good insight into the game, into hitting, into what it's like, devoting it's basically 7 months of the year devoted to baseball and how that wears on you. And I hadn't really thought about it. I had only thought about it in terms of, yeah, rotisserie baseball must suck compared to football. But I didn't think of it in terms of like the actual players, so many games when there isn't a pandemic, and what that does to them. So that's the tragedy of it all, is that, they have these Shakespearean type falls from these great heights. And he's very candid about his drug use, his lack of knowledge about Doc's drug use, which I also believe. I think Doc was a very private person in a lot of ways. And I think that's part of the reason why he got into trouble, because he didn't have any sort of support group. Who's going to be your support group on the 86 Mets when you're 19? And, when you're 19, a 25-year-old might as well be 50. So you're kind of all by yourself. And so, yeah, it's a game that it was created to make people like statistically win, but you can't fit people into statistics all the time, because people will fuck up.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
So from the first episode that you did, there was a poem that opens up the episode. I was able to clip a little bit of it. I just want people to get a little like preview of what it is. It actually hooked me into the episode really hard. I was going to listen to it no matter what, but just hearing it, it just felt like an old school, like you're sitting down in a bar, somebody's telling a story while the piano man's playing, the piano in the background. So I'm just going to throw this on really quick, and then we'll come back. I clipped out 15 seconds of it. So let's just play that and we'll come right back.
Play in 86 was going to see a bunch of thugs beat, brawl, and humiliate their opponent. A George Foster grand slam, followed by quiet St. Ray night, getting drilled by and then charging the mound of Doc.
So yeah, that'll hook you right in. It just really lends more to this episode, and it has you set up ready for what the 86 Mets were about. And if you weren't alive during 86 and you didn't know what was going on back then, like what George Foster did with the team, and how Ray Knight was a class act, but if you pissed him off, he was going to go off on you. And it was just such a great little it's something that a lot of people don't know, like that kind of poem with the piano behind it, and just it gives like that 86, even like late 70s 80s vibe, and I really enjoyed that. So putting that in really grabbed me.
I'm glad you did. And that was Frank Messina, who was the unofficial poet laureate of the Mets. And the David Amram Quartet behind him. I'm not a jazz aficionado, but apparently he's a big name. And yeah, it was sort of like, well, it was in Greenwich Village. It was at the Cornelia Street Cafe, which is now gone, but it was sort of like that snapping fingers kind of thing. And he did, the spoken word poetry. And that's another element that I wanted to put in the movie, that not just interviews with players and reporters and fans and stuff, but spoken word poetry. I have another Arnold, who was on New York One with you. He's a stand-up comedian. I had a night of Mets comedy.
So you just played one of the games from the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. It was hard to pick, but we were able. So it was a lot of comedians doing shtick about the Mets. And so I wanted to, and even someone who had opened a pizza place, which again is no longer, but he's a huge Met fan, and he had a pizza called the 86. And he had a Hawaiian pizza in honor of Ron Darling. So like I filmed him making the pizzas and talking about the Mets and how they influenced his pizza. I mean, like things like that I felt like sports films definitely don't have, and a lot of documentaries don't necessarily delve into that kind of thing. But Frank was great. And an interesting side note, I used to do locations for films, as you know, Keith. And
I know nothing about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was another Keith. That was Keith Hernandez. But I did locations for Was it Paterno? I can't remember. I think it was Paterno. No, it was the Woody Allen movie that didn't get released. And he was an extra in that. So I was sitting down and I ended up sitting next to Frank Messina, and I hadn't seen him in a few years. And now he's married with a kid. Life goes on.
It just keeps going and going and going.
Going and going. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So when the 86 movie was, got with the speed bump, I got bummed out because I know how hard you worked on it and are still working on it to get it out in some form. And, we've had various different talks about how you can get it out to people. I think the podcast is a great way of doing it. We've talked about other ways. I think some of those are still viable for you too. I just want to say we actually have some people saying hi to us. Jesse.
Jesse.
We also have my buddy Lucho.
Hello, Lucho.
These guys are both diehard Mets fans. I know they would enjoy the movie. So, guys, look up for the podcast. It's 86'd. What's the full title of it? I know it's 86'd.
What was it? The podcast about the 86 Mets movie that didn't get made. Jesse is actually a great supporter of mine. Like you, I met him through the Mets, and he's a diehard friend too.
Hey, he's one of my best friends.
Yeah, he's one of the good ones, and I really one of the things that hurt a lot about the film was the fact that I felt like people thought that maybe I pulled a fast one on them, or, that people had gone out on a limb for me and I had let them down. And being mostly the face of the project, it was on me. And I felt terrible about that. And if somebody did feel that way, other than me saying I did my best, people are still going to feel that way. But I think, and it was so heartbreaking for me because it started with such promise. It was like, imagine your dream project. Like, imagine you meet someone who has money to invest in you, believes in you, and says, yeah, why don't you do a film on the 86 Mets? And you're like, oh my God, when does this ever happen? And then it's like, it just didn't work. In the end, it started well. And then like, once it didn't work, it didn't work. And so it really messed me up for a while. Yeah. Because it wasn't just like, it wasn't just, a work for hire kind of thing. It was personal for me, and it shouldn't have been, but it was. And, so there you go. But like I said, I still felt there were quality interviews there. These are smart men and a lot of insight and the benefit of years of thinking and being asked questions and having a lot to say still. So that's the best I can do to get it out there. But yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe I should not say that MLB is all that is unholy, but
the people you were dealing with at the time trying to make this were unholy. You don't know if they're still there or not, but the people you were dealing with that may or may not be with Major League Baseball now were not that kind to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like say boohoo, they were mean to me, but they never gave me a chance.
Yeah, I tried to clean it up for you so you weren't saying that they were Satan.
Thank you.
Just so you know, Lucho, I missed the 86 team, but I'll consume anything 86 Mets. So he's right in your
awesome.
He's right in your wheelhouse. And then
thank you.
Nancy, aka Shouty, she goes, I would love to be part of creating the film.
Thanks,
so you have a lot of supporters. People want to see what you're going to do. I still think there's ways you can show the video, but for right now, I think the podcast is great. I'm telling you that the Lenny one is really good today too. That I was listening to. Did it officially come out today?
Well, what happened is I put it up on SoundCloud and I let my Kickstarter backers know, and then the next day I do like a.
Okay, so be ready for it tomorrow when you guys are just driving around, heading to Citi Field to go see the Mets home opener. Just after the game, when you're, hopefully the Mets win, you can celebrate some more by listening to the podcast. Have you put it on any other formats besides SoundCloud yet?
I have not. I'm sort of new to podcasting. Well, I'm brand new. This is the first I've ever done podcasting. So I haven't yet, but I know I can put it on iTunes, and I am open to any suggestions on how to best use this format.
I'll talk to you later about it. I know a few different ways to do it, so
I'm sure you do. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That'll get you out there more. Let's see, Lucho. Anyone that gives a 7th inning and a runner on second for extra innings is pure evil. Talking about the LP. And on Shouty.
Thank you.
Shouty, oh, so it's good. It's done. Good for you. Sorry, misunderstood. No, Shouty, it's not done. There was a whole bunch of footage that was shot, and Heather not letting a good story get away from her has turned it into a podcast. And as she's telling the story about what's going into trying to make the movie, she's giving you the interviews that were part of the movie and what was going on behind the scenes, and how when she was talking to the players and what was going on. It's actually a documentary podcast into a documentary that couldn't get finished, but I think it's going to end up being better than just the movie itself, even though the movie I felt was going to be good. I saw a lot of the interviews, and I think this is just another great avenue of learning about 86 Mets from their own words, and then learning about what was going on with documentary filmmaking behind the scenes, trying to catch that story. I think I summed that up.
That's great. Very cool. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I'm gonna go catch your breath for a second.
Good night. I'm Media Goon.
I'm Media Goon now. So I've been part of a few different podcasts. I helped Darren start off Orange and Blue thing. I have a podcast with my cousin, Shark and Goon, which we haven't done anything in a while because he has no time for anything. And then I've been doing the QBC stuff. I'm thinking about turning a lot of that stuff, the videos into podcasts. Maybe do a wraparound of the different interviews that we have with the players and the different Mets panels. I
think also when you just hear them and you don't see them, they take on a different kind of quality. Mm-hmm. That you catch things that you maybe didn't notice before because I don't know, your attention was diverted or your senses are diverted, but it's really helped me, get a new kind of feel for the footage, just listening to it and not even looking.
Yeah, and for me, it's doing the QBCs. I never have time to actually sit into a panel. I'm the one that's always running around and basically producing the floor, producing behind the scenes. Back in the day, I had my cousin that was helping me produce it, and then we had my new partner Dan, which is not new, but he was he came in the second year where it was really more him, me, and my cousin, but. Dan was always dealing with the players coming in. I'm dealing with all the tech stuff, the timing on the floor. So I couldn't ever really appreciate what was going on. So I go back and I watch the videos and see what I missed. And now I'm like, I would love to listen to this as I'm driving around for work. So I'm gonna end up doing a podcast probably, and listening to your podcast is like, you know what, I should do this, and now you're giving me inspiration even more to do it. So that's another good thing that's coming out of your podcast / movie.
Hello. Oh, here I am.
I don't even want to know what you did.
I couldn't see either of us. So yeah, using my 86 Mets magic.
It was a disappearing act. You're doing a transport.
It was a disappearing act. Yeah. It's like, oh no, here I am.
Shouty, I love filming, editing, all things media. Got my mind from Hofstra and film. The technology is now new epic for new contact. Shouty, I went to St. John's. I have my bachelor's in communications. When I was there, I was still cutting film and cutting audio and splicing it with tape. So yeah, all this cool stuff now is awesome. I even learned how to operate a TV board at St. John's with the control room. So doing this stuff is amazing. And imagine if you had like even this stuff when you were doing the documentary at the time, where you had a lot of tech, but imagine the tech now where you didn't have to go chase down everybody, and you could have something clear like this StreamYard. So you didn't have to waste money to go to California, even though it's cool meeting the person one-on-one.
Right.
But it could have saved you some money, and like all this stuff blows my mind of the possibilities that we could do. And just even like QBC, we had a virtual QBC because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have thought of that. Imagine if you were able to have, player A and player B on the same call as you're doing a documentary with them, and one's in New York, one's in California, and you can have the two of them as you're interviewing them.
I would have loved to have had Kevin Mitchell and Calvin Schiraldi together, because as you know, they roomed together in the minors. So I would love to have something like that. I think that would be great. Kevin Mitchell being one of my favorite interviewers, Calvin Schiraldi being the most terrifying. One thing I will say is pretty much every player, Kevin Mitchell is the exception, because Dykstra is Dykstra. He had a lot of insight, but he's still, he's still nuts, but with insight. Who is it? Kevin Mitchell, I really didn't know what to expect. And he couldn't have been more of a gentleman, I learned so much about, the Mets, the game, the politics, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, pretty much everyone was how you would imagine they would be in, if you think about, if I were to interview blah, 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 if I were to interview, who else did I meet? Well, Schiraldi, he has this dark aura. I don't mean to sound like all California or whatever, but he does have this, like he did, when he played on the Red Sox. And he still got it, even more so. And like I said, Mookie is Mookie. Buckner, I said, was like a cowboy, kind of very stoic, kind of Marlboro Man type. Probably the best person, if a ball's going to go through someone's legs, Bill Buckner was probably the best person for it to happen to, because anyone else would have just like gone bananas and lost it. I would say the same thing for Ralph Branca, who gave up the home run to Bobby Thompson. I remember in Ken Burns baseball, they brought in a priest for him. He ended up being the last surviving member of the Dodgers too, but there are some people that, get bad breaks, but they can handle it. And there are some people who get great breaks and they can't.
It's very true. And I'm going to also talk about, since we keep talking about the pandemic, let's also talk about how you are an author too. And you had a book. I think you also had a book come out recently where I think you caused the pandemic just to get this book out.
I did cause the pandemic to get the book out. Now it can be told. I do have that kind of power. And the book is called Plagues, Pandemics, and Viruses from the Plague of Athens to COVID-19. And you would think that would be writing a book during a pandemic. You would think would be tougher than doing a movie on the Mets, but no, the Mets was tougher. But yeah, it's available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, and I was hired to do the book in 2018. And then the pandemic happened, and I got my deadline extended. And so I talk about everything from, the Black Death and, rabies to COVID and SARS and MERS and where we go from here and how it affects people. Like even today, like how do you co-parent during a pandemic? And what do priests and rabbis say when they're talking to people about pandemics? Why does God let these things happen? So that's in my other life too. My website is heathercue.com. I have information on the book there, on my films. Links to the podcast are on there. I don't have a lot of wine and beer.
No, but that's how you cope with it.
I do have this little spinal thing that my husband and I have been using to squeeze because we both need chiropractors now. We're getting old. And I have this sciatica. It's killing me. I've aged a lot since I started this movie.
Also, how to co-parent. A lot of wine and beer helps to co-parent.
A lot of wine and beer helps to co-parent. That's how my parents did it. Or at least my dad, not my mom. My mom's going to be watching this. She'll kill me. But oh, my dad. That's the coping skills. Yes, how to co-parent. 2 words, Johnny Walker. Doesn't matter, red or black.
Oh, and 2020, the year of the cutout. Would love to write up a blog or something with that title. Hey, Shouty, if you have something you want to write up, I have a blog, themediagoon.com. You can always send something in, and you could be a guest writer. I'll put you in there.
Do it.
Just email me at @mediagoon. All right, let me do this again. It's mediagoon@gmail.com. No at that. That's just the website because there's another mediagoon.com out there. It's hip hop site. And I think I didn't get that site like within a day, and they had that out. So yeah, so mediagoon@gmail.com.
Everybody, write to him.
Yes, write to me. All right.
I just might. Yeah, see, we're influencers.
I wish I was an influencer.
You are an influencer.
One where I actually make money.
Yeah, I know. That's what I heard somewhere, that kids in school now want to be influencers. Those are the different kind of cliques that they join now, the influencer cliques. I was like, we must seem like we're from the 1930s.
Well, my 90-year-old nephew, that's my wife's nephew, that when I got married into the family, he became my nephew. He loves YouTube, and he wants to keep doing YouTube shows and doing all this content, but he doesn't know how to do it. And then I showed him what I do on this with YouTube and interviewing people, and it blew his mind. So now I'm like an even cooler uncle, because now I can help him with his stuff. So now I'm trying to hitch my wagon behind this kid, and maybe I can actually get him to make some money. He could be the next generation.
Yes. Make that kid work for you.
My buddy Dave. Yeah, he influences me on buying more
jerseys. Oh, we didn't talk about my favorite 86 Met player.
Oh, I was getting to that. That's my interview style. I'm like a great white shark. I just keep circling and coming back and coming back. I have nothing prepared. I don't know if you realize that or not. I have no notes.
No notes, people. He's like, yes, no net.
No net. I just fly. So I fly like a great white shark.
The flying Walenda, medium. And yes, my favorite 86 Met is, drum roll please,
I wish
Sid
I had the drum roll.
Fernandez.
I actually met Sid at a signing. You know, I went to go talk to the agent that we deal with the QBC, and I didn't even notice it was Sid at first. Like he slimmed down,
different,
yeah, slimmed down, the tattoos. You know, I was just like, "Whoa, that's Sid." So yeah,
Sid Fernandez and Kevin Elster, the two people who look nothing like they did in '86. But yeah, Sid, because Sid always gained weight during the season, so now he doesn't have, you know, a season to deal with, so he doesn't have to gain weight.
He's like, I'm good.
He'd show up at spring training being like lean and mean for Sid, and then somewhere like around July, he'd be like, Jesus Christ, he put on like 30 pounds. How is that possible?
It's great because he was hanging out in Maspeth.
Yeah. See, that was another thing Lenny said. Being a pitcher is like the best gig you could have because, you know, every 5 days, other than that, you hang out in Maspeth. But yeah, he was my favorite. I adored him. We have the same birthday, so I thought it was meant to be. It wasn't. I'm okay with it now. He's not, but he will be at some point, I'm sure. A little more surfing will get him through it.
If you're wondering what I'm doing, my dog's bothering me.
So I was wondering what you were doing. I'll be honest.
I'm keeping him quiet because he's coming over just saying hi to me.
It's like he's got some kind of weird itch going on there. Without a net, everyone. Without a net.
So that's who was bothering me. My oversized Scottish Terrier.
Oh, hi. Oh. What's the wee one's name?
His name's Nashville. Trisha named him, so I call him Nash.
Nashville?
Nashville.
Nashville.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a terrible name. Nashville's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we call him Nash, and when everybody really asks me his name, I said he's named after Kevin Nash, or the wrestler, or you know, I just pick up different names as I'm talking to them.
Right. Nash Bridges.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah, every time somebody asks me, I give them a different answer.
Speaking of pandemic, I don't have it. I just got the vaccine, but I certainly sound like I do. Yeah. So, well, it was Lisa. Hello. Nice to see you. She's a great Met fan and New York trivia doyen.
Nice.
I have worlds colliding sometimes between Met fans and people who I do New York trivia with. Now that I live in New Jersey, yeah, what was I saying? Nash Bridges.
Nash Bridges.
Nash Bridges.
My dog did a run-in with Cameo.
And now I want a dog. I want a dog. I want a what did I think he was called? Nesher?
I just went with it, and I let you be
Mr. Frog.
All right, fine. We're gonna start showing stuff here. I have wrestlers.
Yes. It's gonna be a steel cage match. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Turkey. I'm so glad I didn't like prepare anything really. I just figured I don't, either. I was just gonna go with it.
I just find it more natural and more fun if you just do that, and that way you're not locked into anything.
Yeah, and you're like my pal, right? And so I don't feel like I have to,
It's just like having a conversation with people watching.
I don't feel like I have to be smart and intelligent.
It's okay. I didn't expect it.
He starts off with, I gotta do content, so here's
like Dave Maggio, right?
What?
Dave Maggio. He does he's a great artist. He does a lot of Met-centric art.
Yeah.
Right. So Dave, it's usually me, Dave, and Graphics Joker. They'll join me on this just so that we have other people in the room, with the guest. They're busy today, but I pick on Dave because like he's so good at like the faces and being able to take the jokes, and he's just like such a great like Costello to my Abbott,
Right.
So,
yeah.
So like I get it. That's why like I make like the the little jokes at the beginning just to put everybody at ease and just be able to roll into it. So
you're very deadpan. You have my mother was just telling me about a comedian. She just heard of. Wait, what's his name? Adam. Oh, God, I couldn't remember. She's like, I just saw this comedian. His name is Stephen Wright. He does the deadpan delivery.
She just found Stephen Wright.
He had me to raise. And the vets to root for. She was. There's a lot going on. She's got that deadpan delivery. So yeah, Stephen Wright, everyone, if he's new in town, you could use your
brand new comedian,
funny man Stephen Wright. You're gonna love his deadpan delivery. Like what we do.
Well, I know you didn't watch my last episode, but I had John Saponara on, who, by the way, does another show on the Queens Baseball Convention channel. It's Catching Feelings with John Saponara.
I did, I tried to watch Catching Feelings. I couldn't. I didn't know where to click.
I couldn't catch it.
I couldn't catch the feeling. I had the feeling of being had. No. I couldn't find it. I clicked on Facebook and it took me to the QBC Facebook page. So I tried to watch it.
At least you tried.
I did wrong. I clicked on another thing and it brought up a JPEG of the logos.
Somehow she hacked the website and no idea how. All right. So while we're talking about John, I'm just going to throw out a quick little shout out to him. So on Friday at 11 a.m. West Coast, 2 p.m. East Coast, he's going to have Chris Frangiola on, who's a big Mets fan. Chris is a writer comedian who can currently be heard hosting his highly successful podcast, Cover to Cover with Chris Frangiola. He was a writer and a cast member on Chelsea Lately Show. So that's a pretty big get.
Mm-hmm.
He gets him, I get Heather Quinlan. So
Steel cage match. Wait. So like, I was out to, what is his name? Chris Jambiello?
No, my dog Nashel.
The man needs content, people. Content. Somebody help him. Help this man. Clearly, I
can't. Just so you guys know,
why am
Heather
I
and I, because I need content, damn it.
This is the stupidest interview I've ever done. Wait, so Media Goon, how did you get in the business? What was your big break?
Honestly, my first time ever getting into the film business, I worked on TV commercials for 8 years in the production side on tabletop and on locations. So a lot of stuff I learned was working in there, where I learned how to light. I learned actually how to do photography. I learned how to rig a lot of stuff. I can pretty much do a lot of stuff through that. And then after 8 years, I realized that I wasn't going anywhere with that company, but I burnt a lot of bridges because I was only working with that company when I was freelance. I mean, they kept me working all the time, though. Even when we weren't shooting, I was working, but I was still freelance. And then, I decided that it was time to make a jump, and I went into a different direction. Became a union member in the film business. You know, working on TV shows and we do commercials every now and then.
What are you working on now? Anything?
Right now, I'm working on the prequel to Downton Abbey.
Oh, filming in New York?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
See, you don't even know.
I don't even know. No, I have no idea. Now, wouldn't it be funny if it were filmed like in Queens? That would be awesome. I assume it's in Manhattan.
Nope.
No. Oh, awesome. Is it Riverdale? All right. You don't have to tell me.
I'll tell you off the air.
All right.
But the funny thing is, I'm
not even a Downton Abbey fan, but I'm like, I could get into this.
Yeah, well, be kind of up your alley because history of New York and stuff like that.
Right.
But the funny thing is, me and Heather, we worked on Royal Pains back in the day. She jumped on with us for a couple of weeks, right? Was it Royal Pains?
No, I didn't work.
Or the Americans.
The Americans, I worked with you.
The Americans.
Yes.
But it was the same locations manager that I was friends with that you came over with to work for the couple of weeks.
Right.
And if you think we're being silly now on this, you should have saw us when we're actually hanging out in person at work for 18 hours.
Oh my God. Well, I was on the Americans when I just missed Frank Viola in the bar at where we were filming somewhere at LaGuardia, and Frank Viola was in a bar in LaGuardia. And I was like, Frank Viola's there, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go sit there. Like, you just missed him.
Yeah, it was at that hotel that was across the street from LaGuardia,
yes,
right?
It was at that hotel. I can't remember what it was. It was like 1:00 in the morning. I
when we turned it into a bus station.
Oh, was that what it was?
We turned the front of the hotel into a bus station.
Oh, that's right. Yes, because the bus. Well, for those of you who are watching, the Americans supposedly took place in D.C., but it was all filmed in Hollywood. People. It was all filmed around. Well, a lot of it in Queens, at least what I worked on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the stages were in Brooklyn, but we shot a lot in Queens, Forest Hills, over by LaGuardia.
I filmed like an Avon kind of thing up in White Plains, I think. Yeah. And yeah, we filmed at the Queens Museum outside of there. And we had someone with a stand with Redskins memorabilia stuff from the 80s selling that. That looked awesome. And Frank Langella, he's super cool. I love him. He's Dracula, and he's also Dracula in The Americans too.
Did you ever hear what his all-time favorite role is?
Dracula?
Nope.
Not Dracula.
Not Dracula. It was
Goldberg's boyfriend.
It was Skeletor in the He-Man movie.
No way.
Yep, that's his all-time favorite role because his kids were big into He-Man when they were little, and he loved it because he was able to ham it up, and he wanted to do his own fight scenes. He wanted an actual costume that looked more like Skeletor than what he wore, but he just loved it, and he was dying to do a sequel.
Oh my God. Well, if I can't get the 86 Mets done, then maybe I can do, the world is crying out for another He-Man movie with Frank Langella. I just saw him in the Trial of the Chicago 7. He was great in that. Not a lot of action. But...
Well, I actually drove him a few times on the Americans, and he just wouldn't stop talking about He-Man.
About He-Man? God, yeah. If I had been driving him when I was 8 years old, I would have been nuts. That was, I think, the first thing we ever rented on a VHS tape was He-Man. Well, for me, it was He-Man and then Stephen Wright in concert. And then He-Man with Stephen Wright.
Hi, my name is Stephen Wright. I am man at arms. I have many arms. I don't know why I'm a man at arms.
I didn't know what the hell man at arms was, and then I saw what the hell is it? The State of the Union, and they're like, here's the man at arms.
Hey, where's Tila? Where's Tila?
Where's the lesson I'm supposed to learn from the episode today? I'm supposed to learn something here, aren't I? I will forever crush on it.
This is one of my, out of the 5 episodes I've done so far, this is the most I've laughed, just so you know.
Out of the 1 episode I've done, this is mine.
Hey, so Keith, when can I come back? I don't need content right now.
I have to go defend Grayskull. But when I come
Frank just called me up.
Yeah, you're the first person I'll call. Yeah, so 86 Mets.
I was just gonna go there. I was just gonna go. So the Lenny episode comes out tomorrow for everybody on SoundCloud for right now. Just go. We'll run over your social media and everything that you have, or the websites.
He's gonna upgrade me because I'm like someone who just discovered Stephen Wright. I need a little bit of guidance. I'm happy I got it up on SoundCloud. That I called Soundhound. That I got it up on SoundCloud, and but yeah, tomorrow's episode, Lenny Dykstra talks about his what it's like to be Nails, and what else does he talk about? He talks about, geez, I just spent hours with this. He talks about Grayskull. He talks about being the man at arms,
hanging out with Stephen Wright.
And how a certain amount of drugs turned him into a man of arms. And how he had better drugs than Tony Gwynn. So it was a frog. No, it's drugs.
Lenny was actually licking the LSD toads. See, that's what Heather was doing before this,
and that's what she'll be doing after.
We'll have more content soon with
What's
Heather.
That frog? Okay, brother.
All right, we're gonna take it down a little bit. Relax.
We're gonna take it down.
We're gonna reset.
And, so podcast tomorrow is Lenny and Lenny Bears All, and Lenny has a lot to say. I love frogs too. And the previously on 86'd, I talked about how I got started, do a little background on some of the players, including Doc Gooden's grandfather, Ulysses Gooden, and his start in the Negro Leagues. And next week I have episodes that are coming out every Thursday. Next week is going to be Mookie and Buckner and how they became besties. And so look out for that one next week. And I hope you all enjoy. And it's a shame that I couldn't make the movie I wanted, but ultimately, you know what, MLB, no hard feelings. Honestly, this has totally changed my outlook on life. No hard feelings, MLB. Keith, cut out the part in the beginning where I talk about them. And you know what? It is what it is. What will be, will be. I love it as a podcast. What would have been the worst thing is if I never got any footage. And I know this sounds so schmaltzy as hell, but it's true. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that would have been the biggest tragedy. So at least I got the footage. I got to meet these guys. I got to meet the Beastie Boys, and there are worse things that can happen. So, and I got to meet Media Goon.
Well, what I want to know is, when is my episode going to come out?
Well, your episode, I have to plan. I like you. I'm kind of like making this up as I go along. I don't know if you could tell, but after Mookie and Buckner, I think I might do you guys next, because that was a great day. That was like for the people who don't know, I had a gathering of Met bloggers at my friend's apartment in Queens, and Keith was there. Dennis Holden was there. Mm-hmm. Who else? And Marcus.
And Marcus, I think Greg Prince too, right? Did he come to that
Prince
one?
And Jason Fry were there. Taryn Cooper and Ed Lero were there with their teddy bears. I can't think of the name. Michael, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Geus? Geus. And his blogging partner, whose name escapes me too. But yeah, we got everyone together. It was this little sort of kind of UN conference of all these different bloggers meeting for the first time. And it was a really great day. We talked about, everything from, Game 6 to the ramps at Shea, and how the endless ramps, and what a different experience it was walking down those ramps when they lost compared to when they won. When they lost, there was always like fist fights. And I think it was just people were so annoyed because they had so long to walk too. That stadium was just, someone else who I have in the film is Joe Quesada, who is one of the heads of Marvel, and his dad helped build Shea. Yeah,
Joe, he designed the Thor bobblehead too, I think.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
He was, I got to be honest, I didn't know who he was. My editor is a huge comic book guy, and I ended up marrying a comic book writer. I didn't know from Joe Quesada. And, if I had, I probably would have been freaked out and nervous. But because I didn't know who he was, it was like, all right, And I just knew he was a guy with a lot of money. And we did it at Bergino's. So I did a lot of interviews there. Jay Goldberg was another great supporter. Interviewed Charles Grodin there. Interviewed Joe Quesada there. He showed up in sweatpants. He's probably worth like $1 trillion, at least, hypothetically or whatever.
In comic book money.
In comic book money, yeah. And he shows up in sweatpants, and he was just a totally like normal guy. Couldn't have been nicer. Gave us a ton of time. So yeah, and his dad helped build Shea Stadium.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was that when we were doing the interview, that was right down the hill from my house. You had no idea how close I was.
Oh yeah, Woodside, right? Yeah.
And then you were my neighbor for a little bit.
I know.
And we ran into each other one time. One time, just randomly by the supermarket. Just
that was it.
That was it. And but it was just funny because we've had this friendship, as you get to see, where we just bust each other's chops and make each other laugh like crazy. Let me just answer this to Shouty. I did not go to the Hofstra Mets event, but that was one of the things that gave us an idea for the QBC. And we talked to Greg Prince about it, and he helped us, grow the QBC from an idea and talking about what the Mets did, the Mets anniversary at Hofstra, and showed us that they wanted there to be a fan fest. So that's why we did it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a documentary on the QBC.
I could do that.
You could probably do it in like 20 minutes.
Let's do it. Let's freaking do it. Yes.
Especially with the stuff when I had to deal with Yahoo. The C&D. Yeah. That's still one of my proudest moments, being able to C&D Yahoo.
Not a lot of people can say that.
Nope.
No,
not at all.
I think that's a great idea. I think it's got legs.
It's got some gams. It's got some
gams. Like Keith does. Yo, Keith, I gotta cut this short. My power's going. I'm at 12%.
Because you didn't plan ahead.
I didn't plan ahead. I without a net. See, I'm falling. I thought, well, I don't know. Keith is going to talk to me for like half an hour. I'm going to do my spiel on the Mets. I had no idea Mr. Frog was going to be here. Your wrestler, your dog.
Just remember, Lucha will forever have a crush on Annette.
On Annette. He's funny, that one. He's going to go far. Deadpan.
He's going to go hang out with Stephen Wright and Young Comics. He's going to go hang out
with Stephen Wright. Yeah. Pandemic be damned. All right.
So we've talked for almost an hour and 15 minutes, believe it or not.
And I can't handle this much fun.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick little recap for the Saponaro show. So stay in the studio. I'll talk to you for 1 second. I'm going to take you off the screen right now, but don't go anywhere.
If I disappear just because I ran out of power, I didn't run out. I didn't Irish goodbye you, but I should still be okay.
Lies.
Right.
All right, I'll talk to you in a second.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, I just want to run through this really quick one more time with the John Saponaro show. Catching Feelings on this Friday, 11 a.m. in the West, 2 p.m. in the East, with Chris Frangiola, who was formerly of the Chelsea Handler Show and Chelsea Lately. Well, actually, yeah. So he's a big Mets fan. John speaks very highly of him. I wish I've caught his work in the past, but I haven't. And but you guys should. I'm going to try to watch it on Friday too, but I'll be at work. But hey, who knows? Let's watch it. It's going to be on John's Facebook, our QBC Facebook, and I'm going to figure out this whole Twitter thing. So, all right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.